He was a tall man, and his long curly hair hung right over his shoulders. When he looked at you with his smiling blue eyes, you would feel safe. His body was thin, but his arms were strong, and over his shoulders he had a short red ribbed cloak held in place by a small silver chain. His woolen shirt was clean and soft. He was brave and fearless and didn't mind going into the creepy woods. His idea of fun was to play guessing games or snakes and ladders with real snakes. After he'd eaten his favourite food of tasty round green beans, he would tuck his thin fingers into the brown and gold silk belt of his pants and dream of playing football with his friend Francis. He was a helpful man who loved to climb the Rocky Mountains. His old blue trousers barely kept him warm, but he remembered dancing to some Egyptian music in front of everyone at the concert. He loved to dance. Just for a moment, he kicked his crumpled leather shoes, and he could hear their metal buckles rattle.
Tell him to eat all his food. He's strong because he eats loads of healthy things. He's kind and adventurous. He's kind and he helps people. He's kind and he helps people. He plays games with hide and seek. He lives in a big house. He races and he's very fast.
Here inside of his small palm tree wooden hut, the noisy silver alarm clock woke him up. He had to pull his long curly hair away from his eyes. It was a noisy alarm clock. But he was pleased. He was here on this square island. The square island in the middle of the sea that was surrounded by sharks and snapping crocodiles. He had jumped out of an aeroplane to get to this place. He wanted to fight sharks. He remembered, just before he had jumped out of the aeroplane, he had had a meal of spicy sausages. He loved spicy sausages. But he was surrounded by sharks, and he'd come here for a purpose, because he wanted to fight the sharks. But as he came closer to the shore, he found himself starting to sink into the hot quicksand. He was sinking further and deeper, and now the short red cloak that was around his shoulder was drenched in the thick, oily sand. And as if from nowhere, quicker than a wink or a blink of an eye, he saw that there was a giant Japanese woman with short, curly hair. On her feet she had huge, steel, hard boots, and she started to stamp this way and that amongst all of the sharks and all of the crocodiles, and their sharp zigzag teeth were being broken on the sand. But the crocodiles were too quick for her. They were coming and they were starting to snap at the laces that held the boots onto her feet, and now the two of them were starting to sink into the slippery quicksand. They couldn't believe it. They heard a tsk, 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 coming out of the sky, and there they could see a strong little red Welsh dragon. He wondered if he was ever going to be able to stand on hard ground again. But this woman was now up to her knees, up to her legs in the quicksand, and he was up to his neck in the quicksand. But with its two-fingered claws, the small red Welsh dragon grabbed them from out of the quicksand and pulled them high into the air and flew with the two of them. And it seemed to get stronger as it went higher. It was saving the man and the woman. But it started to become weak. It started to become faint. It started to become so that it lost all of its strength. It released its fingers and the woman plummeted down into the water. And the man slipped out from its two-fingered claws and down he fell into the water. They were strong swimmers. But that small, strong, red Welsh dragon had lost all of its strength and fluttered and fell back down into the square island and it could never leave that place. The man was sad. He knew that he would never see the dragon again. The woman stamped away with her bare feet, and our hero, for that's what he was, never saw her again either. The sea was filled with sharks. No one would ever go there to that place. They found it too frightening. It was really dangerous. The island was square and rough, but on its shores it had slippery, squidgy seaweed. It was an island that was covered with seaweed. There were nasty, snappy alligators all around. But in the middle of the island there were tall green palm trees. The sharks in the sea could go onto the beach, and he was inside of a wide palm tree wooden house at the edge of the shark-filled sea.
On the airplane, I made him jump off, and I made an imaginary world with pink coconuts and a pink palm tree house. When the pilot flies over the island, and the man jumps off because he wants to fight the sharks and the snappy crocodiles. He jumped off an aeroplane and he landed on top of the square icy island, and he slipped into the river and he ran out before the sharks got him to eat.
He jumped out of the aeroplane and he fell in the sea full with crocodiles, alligators